It is my sincere pleasure to introduce Venerable Rita Curtin today. As one of the most impactful and beloved teachers of my life personally, and I know for countless others out there in the room and literally at every corner of the world. Just on a personal note, I think I owe an immeasurable debt of gratitude for Venerable Rita bringing me to Buddhist study along with the Dalai Lama, of course.
Along with the Dalai Lama, I'm like in the same breath. I mean, come on.
And actually got to go on pilgrimage, the Chasing Buddha pilgrimage with you in 2009 and pay
Right.
my wedding vows,
Yes.
which was something that I will never forget. Many of you all know her well already, and she will definitely want me to keep it short, but I will try to hit some highlights for those of you who may not know her as well. Venerable Rita became a student of Lama Geshe and Lama Zopa Rinpoche in the late 70s and was ordained as a Buddhist nun in 1978. Since then, she has devoted her tireless energy to sharing her wisdom and these precious teachings with us in many ways. For example, as editorial director at Wisdom Publications, which she edited many favorite books, including How to Meditate with Kathleen MacDonald, and more recently, Mahamudra, one of my favorites, which captures Lama Geshe's precious teachings. She served as the editor of the FPMT's Mandala magazine for years, founded the Liberation Prison Project that offers Buddhist teachings and support to prison inmates and advocates for prisoners' rights. She is also a talented singer and has kindly captured precious mantras for us with melodies passed down to her from Lama Zopa Rinpoche in her CD titled Devotion. She travels all over the world to teach us sessions like these, innumerable podcasts, and the best possible social media content out there, Something to Think About series, which is a way for us to stay connected to the teachings in a day-to-day manner with her uniquely practical and no-nonsense style. So I'm delighted that you are here.
Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you so much. Happy. I'm happy we have a connection. Good, sir. Good people. So what has love got to do with the price of fish? That's extra on the title. What has love got to do with it? It's a good story, good picture. So but first we think we're going to listen to these words, and I always say it, and it's true, but I will be listening too, to see if there's some use in these words, some tools we can use, because it is advice. I always say it too, you don't have to take it. Buddha's not the boss, you're the boss. You decide if you like the advice. And it's advice to do what? Well, to help us put our mind together, to help us become, well, for the Buddha, our astonishing, marvelous potential. I mean, it's just even to hear the Buddha's view of the potential we've got is very uplifting. It's not how we think in the world. You go to a neuroscientist and say, please tell me how to develop the pure nature of my mind, and they'll think you're mentally ill, like you've got to wash your brain or something, because they're talking about the brain. So there's no view like that, But Buddha has this extraordinary view about our marvelous potential. Just that should uplift us, honestly, give us courage. And then on the basis of this, because we all live in this crazy planet, the more we put ourselves together, the more we break down these artificial barriers that ego has constructed between self and other, then we can be a benefit to others. How marvelous. So if there's any advice in here about that, go for it. That'll do. I don't need to sing a prayer. That's our prayer. Okay. Well, actually, love, compassion, which is what drives most people to a spiritual path, is in fact more advanced. If you look at this Lamrim, this packaging of Buddha's teachings, they're in a nice orderly way, orderly according to the capacity of the disciple. So if you like, I like to think of everything. We talk about the teachings of the lowest scope, middle scope, great scope. We know these words. I prefer to call it junior school, high school, university. Well, love and compassion are taught in university. That's a big surprise to us. But why? Why are they more complicated? Why are they more advanced? You could say there's a wisdom wing and the compassion wing. A bird needs two wings. And the way we'd like to say it in the West is the wisdom wing, which is all about you. That's like self-compassion. It's like self-love. Buddhism doesn't have a term like that as a contradiction in terms, but that's how we talk in the West. It's how you take care of yourself. So, of course, if you hear about self-love, you hear about, having a relax and a nice massage and a little bit of a weep, someone to hug you. You can do that too. But that's not Buddha's approach, It's okay. It's good. But if you don't start working on your mind, then you can never change. You'll never get happy. With Buddha's very first teaching, the Four Noble Truths is exactly what he's telling us we need to do if we want to be happy. If we want to be happy, he's telling us what to do. And guess what? It's not to get someone else to make us happy or to get the nice cake or the nice vacation, but to work on your own mind. So that means we have to understand what he means. What do you mean, work on my mind? What he means in the mind, we have a bunch of neuroses, the voices of ego, attachment and anger and jealousy and depression and pride and anxiety and the rest. Surprisingly to us, they don't come from outside. They're triggered by the outside, yes, but the cause of them, it's not a complicated concept, but we just can't hear it, is in our own mind. These tendencies are the source of our suffering. These tendencies are the source of our suffering. So self-love for the Buddha is getting rid of these. Working on your mind, stop being jealous, stop being angry, stop being depressed, stop being anxious, stop being attached. Practice it. That's how you get happy. That's how you take care of yourself. Very surprising to us, but this is exactly the point. So then when you've done that, to the degree that you've done it, is a degree to which when you open your eyes, you realize, oh my goodness, we're all in the same boat. So then you're able to understand others because we're in the same boat, and now you can help them by giving them love and compassion and kindness and patience, So it's very logical, but it's hard initially to hear it this way. And so, put it another way, why is it difficult for us to have love and compassion for others if we haven't worked on our own minds? This is the problem. That's what we try to do now. We leap in and we make a mess half the time because we haven't sorted out our own minds. We haven't identified attachment. We haven't identified the sources of our own pain. So we rush out and try and be kind and loving to others and then wonder why things go wrong, or why, you're out there helping others and you get, you feel like you're being abused and misused for being a nice person, or you go out there and help others during difficult times, you get dragged down and depressed by the amount of suffering. So, of course, naturally we think, let's say you're one of those people who's very kind. There are people like that who've got a kind aspect, who like to help others, who don't get so angry necessarily, who are kind. How marvelous. But then often what happens is you feel like you're being misused and abused, used like a doormat. And so we then assume that being kind to others is why I'm suffering. No, you are not suffering because you're kind to others. If we haven't done the wisdom, we won't recognize we are suffering because we have attachment to being seen as a kind person. It's very subtle. We don't think of it like that. It's not overt. It's very sneaky. It snucks in underneath the compassion and messes it up. But we can't identify that. So we misinterpret why we suffer. So this is what we really have to, why we have to learn to do the wisdom wing first. Really work on our minds, really mind our own business, really learn to work on our body, speech, and mind. Buddha's teachings of the Four Noble Truths, he's addressing it to us. And it's for oneself, This is the inner job. This is the inner work. This is like the retreat mode. This is absolutely vital. This is your starting point for practice. On the basis of this, success of this, you can see others, and now you can begin to be of benefit to others without making a mess. The other reason we suffer, and we think it's everybody else's suffering that causes us suffering, you reach, when bad things happen out there and you're overwhelmed by the suffering of the animals or the poor people, the sick people of the war zones, then you think I'm suffering because of all that. I'm having so much compassion, or that suffering is causing me suffering. This is incorrect analysis. And again, we'll never know this until we work on our own minds, which means until we study the Buddhist model of the mind. So when you see suffering out there and it overwhelms you, the reason you're suffering is not because of that suffering. Again, it's because you've got attachment. You see, and that's why we have to understand attachment. If we don't understand attachment, and then for aversion, and then the neuroses, we cannot possibly understand why we suffer, and we cannot possibly understand why other people suffer. This is so clear, but it's not the model, it's not the Western view, it's not the materialist view at all. Very specific to the Buddha, very specific, And as Lama Yeshe says, I can tell you about attachment for one whole year. You can hear the words of the cows come home. We'll never understand, as Lama says, until we look deeply inside, identify it. So it's very sneaky. It pollutes our goodness. It pollutes our love and compassion. It drags it down, So when we understand attachment, that basically, it's a multitude way of talking about it. Attachment is multifaceted, and it is the source of our suffering and the source of other people's. So the way here that it impacts upon your love and compassion, how you get dragged down by seeing suffering and how it limits your compassion, is that is insofar as this attachment is this emotional hunger, kind of the junkie in us. This is the broadest one, that somehow it's like a fragile child and can only handle nice things. It can't handle problems. It's the best way to put it. Attachment is this complete junkie that is and the stronger it is, the more out of control we become when the moment anything that happens that attachment doesn't want. So we're like, it's just very fragile. We go up and down like yo-yos, So the typical one is, if you look at the three poisons, like young Ling Rinpoche, he always talks, he says, Buddha talks about 84,000 problems, neuroses, and they're all summarized in the three poisons. It's a very coherent presentation, He says 21,000 of those 84 are rooted in the root delusion, ignorance. 21,000 are rooted in attachment, which means they have a character of those. 21,000 are rooted in aversion or anger. And the fourth 21,000 are rooted in all three. So it's a really specific kind of map of the mind, very coherent. So attachment. So one way of talking about attachment or aversion, the three: ignorance, the root delusion, and there's a hierarchical relationship. Ignorance is root delusion, this assumption of a separate, concrete, set in stone me, which is the source of all the problems. And its main voice is this emotional hunger called attachment. And like I said, it's multifaceted. It's primordial dissatisfaction, therefore emotional neediness. The grosser level is for the objects of the senses, and then more subtly the craving to be seen as a good girl, or more broadly too, a craving for everything to be lovely. It can't handle problems. So one way of talking about it is the millisecond it doesn't get what it wants, then there's the panic attack of aversion. That's what arises. So anger is the typical word, but many of you mightn't get angry, so you don't think you get angry, but you've got aversion. So bare bones attachment, when it's prevailing, it kind of goes towards something. Oh, that looks delicious, and you want it. Aversion goes, oh no, go away. Well, even if you don't get angry, you've got aversion 1,000 times a day. You meet things that you don't like, which is meaning attachment doesn't getting what it wants. So aversion is what causes the pain. So you can see suffering out there. Your compassion, yes, has empathy for those people, but you don't see that it's polluted by your emotional hunger, by your neediness, by your fragile child, by your attachment that can only handle nice things. So that part of you freaks out when it sees suffering, but you think it's the compassion and your suffering and their suffering that is causing you suffering. No, it's your attachment, because it can't handle problems. That's why when you get to the level of being like a Lama Zopa, who's a bodhisattva who's given up attachment, who's given up aversion, when he has problems, they eat them up for breakfast, those bodhisattvas. They make them even happier. This is bizarre to us. And we know some people, regular people, who don't seem to be daunted by problems, who seem to greet them and are able to attack them and work with them, who don't lose the plot. But this is why we're so fragile. And then we say, oh, we're sensitive. That's how we call them. Oh, she's so sensitive, we're saying. You understand? It's because you've got aversion, because you can't handle problems. And it's normal human behavior, join the club, people, but it's because of attachment. It's a junkie that only wants everything to be lovely. And a more brutal way of putting it, it only wants what I want, because what lovely means is what I mean by lovely. You get the carrot cake, but you prefer chocolate. My friend prefers carrot. They think it's great. No, how dare they give me carrot cake, So it upsets you because you're so sensitive, because you've got attachment. And your aversion has a panic attack because it's not what you want. So it's very embarrassing to us because we think it's a normal human thing, and it is, but it's totally I-based. It is by definition I-based. It is the main voice of I. This is why we suffer when things that it doesn't want happen. So giving up attachment, the very first level of practice, giving up aversion means having courage to confront and face the thing that attachment doesn't like. This makes us grounded and strong and clear and content. Then you can handle people's problems easily, and because you've got more wisdom, you're not running around like a little girl wanting to be stroked all the time. You'll be wise in your compassion. Then your compassion and love can be valid and useful. Are we communicating? I bet we all recognize, I bet we do. So you've got to know your own mind. So we're either running around being nice because we want to be loved and see as mummy's helper, we are, and that's always there, because the deepest attachment we all have, the deepest, the most primordial, more than for sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and even for comfort, is for approval. It's almost like we define ourselves. This deepest attachment is defining ourselves every second in terms of how we're seen. Walking down the street, you don't think you're thinking about what people think about you, but of course you are. You're in a shop and the person doesn't look at you perfectly. You're upset. because there's this constant need to be seen nice. So if you're arrogant, you're kind of aggressively wanting to be seen as nice. And if you're shy, you're just the same problem. You're shy, because people looking at you makes you nervous. So all the time there's this kind of sense of a separate self. It's so uncomfortable. It needs to be approved of. Every second of everything out there, we're seeing everything we do in terms of whether someone is reporting back to me that it's the right thing to do. So we're so fragile, This attachment makes us so fragile, and it's the source of suffering in a multitude of ways. And then, indeed, in terms of helping others, it blinds us. It blinds us. We can't see others properly. Therefore, we can't help them properly. We can't have compassion properly. Then, as we start to work on our own mind and understand what causes me pain, I can understand somebody else. You see someone getting irritated, you know exactly what's going on. Oh, there's their attachment, not getting what it wants, Then you can be more patient and more tolerant and more kind towards them instead of offended. Because in the end, we are all cut from the same cloth. This is the Buddha's view that's quite interesting. In our culture, it's very fascinating. We don't think it's possible to know another person's mind until you've got their history. Do you understand? Until you know how they were born, what their mother did, what their father did, what the Catholic Church did, what all the background did, what the boyfriends did. I'm not being sarcastic now. That's our way of diagnosing somebody. All in terms of behavior and past treatment. Not for the Buddha. This is what's astonishing about the Buddha's view, and for yourself too. But what's incredible about Buddha's view is, from one's own self, you don't need to know what your mother did to you to know you got angry. You can learn that, yes, it did because you had anger. That's why you got upset with your mum. We think it's the other way around. We think our mum caused the anger. This is the big stumbling block, I tell you. And the Buddha's view is so dramatically opposite, because you come into this life with these tendencies. You don't get them from your parents. That's a massive point to consider and to factor in when you're trying to understand yourself, when trying to use karma and the Buddha's view. It's huge. Same with other people. We see a kid behaving badly, we wonder what their father did to them, You just look at their mind. You see a kid behaving badly, it's called anger. Not because their father made them. It's not because their father might have beat them. But that didn't cause the anger. They brought the anger with them. That's the massive point to really get used to thinking. But we're so addicted to the materialist view. We all good Buddhists just repeat the Buddhist view, the materialist view, as if that's the truth, Buddhist view is radically different. It doesn't mean that what your parents did doesn't have an effect, but we have to the other way around. You come with your own tendencies. You come with that anger, that jealousy, that attachment. And then the conditions you get brought up on, trigger it. That's a fact. They do play a role. Your mum did hit you. No argument. But the anger's yours. And so you look at your own mind to know yourself. So when you see another person and you hear them talking, so think of this as fascinating. You hear a person talking. If you know your mind intimately, which means you know what attachment is, and you know attachment as a concept, what it's saying, what anger is saying, what jealousy is saying, what aversion is saying, what anxiety is, you can identify the thoughts. So what do you think words are? Words are thoughts coming out the mouth with a sound. So you can do your analysis of that person in 1 second if you know your own mind. Wow, she's jealous, she's angry, she's kind. You can hear it. This is not tricky. You have to be clairvoyant to see a person's mind. I mean, you do really finally, but their words give them away. It's very powerful. It's very logical. So you're able to understand another person, and then, or one of the massive things, it's very fascinating, this one for me, in the materialist view. Person recently on one of the classes, just last week, I think, I remember she said she's a therapist and she helps people. And one of the people in this one partner in this relation, in these two people she helps, she said he's narcissistic. She said he's had a diagnosis. That's the word she's using, a diagnosis of being narcissistic. And I didn't hear the diagnosis part. I didn't get what she meant. And I just thought, well, narcissistic is self-centered, attachment, and you're trying to help him become a little bit better, blah, 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 whatever. She said, no, he's got a diagnosis. And it dawned on me, what that means is, when you've got a diagnosis, it means you've got a disease and you can't help it. It gets us off the hook. That's the way we treat it in the West. And I find that totally mind-boggling. Do you understand me? Oh, but I've got a disease. So I've got depression. I can't help it. I've got anxiety. I can't help it. I've got ODOD and ADHD and all the others. I'm not being sarcastic here. If we use the Buddhist view, we've all got a diagnosis of mental illness. Now, when I say that, I'm not being sarcastic. The word affliction is the word that they use in Sanskrit and then Tibetan equivalent. That's Buddha's main word for the neuroses in the mind. Interesting, Lamrim actually never said it. He just knew we never used it, knew it was a weird word. One of the other words is delusion. Delusional. Misconception, nonsense. You're delusional. We've all got them. This is Buddha's entire point. It's because we talk so radically differently when we talk about mental illness and Buddha talks about samsara. Who would ever have thought they meant the same thing? So Buddhist, a really excellent term, an accurate term for affliction is mental illness, mental problem. Geshe would always say mental affliction. Affliction is the problem. Well, it's a mental problem. What does a mental problem mean? Another word is illness. But because we have such a concrete meaning of it in our culture, do you understand? It's shocking to us. Like people way over there are mentally ill. Oh, phew, I haven't had a diagnosis. I'm okay. No, we're all mentally ill. You've got to define your own mental illness. It's called attachment and anger and neurosis and jealousy and lack of concentration and disturbed mind and unable to concentrate. They're all the things that we call those words, I'm not being sarcastic here. And then you have to factor in karma. We don't do that in the West, of course. So knowing your own mind, owning them, not getting off the hook, it's not my fault, which is the irony of ego. It wants to get off the hook. It's everybody else's fault but mine. That's how we talk. It's so intense, Owning our qualities, owning our anger and attachment, and that's being kind to yourself. You own it with kindness, not guilt. Then you've made this radical shift and now you really become a Buddhist. I mean it. Until you start working on your mind, you're not really a Buddhist. You do the preliminary stuff like control your body and speech. But anybody would do that. A good communist would control their speech. A good Catholic would control their speech. A good Buddhist. That's just the beginning. You harness the energy of your body and speech. You control the servants of your mind. When you start to work on your mind, that's when you become a Buddhist. That's the middle scope, Then it's easy to have understanding of others, therefore easy to have love and compassion for them. Because right now, with the deluded way we think of everything, our love and compassion is contingent upon whether or not they only do what I want. Then they deserve my love and compassion, isn't it? That's why we think of suffering. We think of compassion, the compassion wing. Compassion, we should define it. What is it? Well, compassion is, broadly speaking, it's used in Buddhism as the same meaning as empathy. I know in the West they use a different definition, but Buddhism, empathy, compassion, same. Basically, you see someone suffering and you connect. My gosh, look at that suffering. I wish they didn't have it. That's compassion. But the trouble is, isn't it? Without any analysis, we only have compassion for the people having what the Buddha would refer to as the first kind of suffering, the suffering of suffering, when the bad things happen, when the people are harmed. And that to be innocent victims. You've got to be an innocent victim to have compassion for somebody, isn't it? Like if you see me punch someone in the nose and then they punch me back, you won't have compassion for me. You'll say, I deserve it. So we only have compassion for people we think are innocent victims. And of course, the Buddhist perspective will begin, there'll be no such thing because we've all got countless lifetimes. We come programmed with our rubbish from the past. So you're not going to find one of those. We need to find an innocent victim, which is usually a few animals and a few children. Not that many. Very limited. Do you understand? They weren't prepared to have love and compassion for them, we're so wicked. The Buddha says, I'm sorry, guys, everybody's suffering, but if you don't know the Four Noble Truths, how will you get that point? That's why you've got to go back to the basics, back to the wisdom wing to have proper compassion. That's a fact. Because the Buddha says everybody's suffering. There's three kinds of suffering. The first kind is when the bad things happen. The second kind is what we, as we know, Buddha calls it the suffering of change, this boring term, but it's so shocking because what he's referring to is when people people caught up in attachment. When happy things happen, but because they've got attachment, it poisons it. So that's the suffering of change. It's more nuanced, it's more subtle, it's harder to identify. That's what we mean by happiness, when the good things happen. For us, suffering is when the bad things happen. For Buddha, when the bad things happen is the grossest level, and then when the good things happen, it's polluted by attachment, which turns it into, which means it's short-lived and then it turns into the gross level of suffering. We all know that one. You get your cake. Initially it triggers very nice feelings. It triggers happy feelings, no question. But because of attachment, the second you have that pleasant mouthful, attachment's saying, sorry, not enough, have another one, because it's still dissatisfied. So you keep eating, hoping happiness will come. We all know, vomit comes. If you keep eating, waiting for happiness, you'll just end up vomiting. Fact. This is scientific fact. As horrible as it sounds to us, stopping Buddha being mean. So we have this wrong analysis of happiness, you see, Buddha's saying. Then there's the subtler suffering, which is too abstract for us. It's called all pervasive suffering. It's like being born in the first place with this type of body and mind, with attachment. So we're set up to continue to suffer permanently because we've got to get out of it, So Buddha gives us the methods. So the very first method for getting rid of the suffering of suffering is control your body and speech and don't harm others. That stops the future, gross suffering. The second kind of suffering, you give that up by giving up attachment. And the third kind of suffering, all pervasive, you realize emptiness. Then you're out of all of them. So knowing those three kinds of suffering for yourself in the Four Noble Truths, in the wisdom wing, now you're qualified to go, oh my God, everybody's everybody's suffering. And then that's the basis of compassion. And then it is easy to have compassion for them. It's not based on emotion, it's based on logic. And that's why that marvelous practice at the very beginning of the Bodhisattva path called equanimity is so important to understand. Buddha's saying we can develop it. You've got these two main practices, isn't it, to develop bodhicitta? This outrageous paradigm shift in the mind where only others arise in you. You've finished your job for you. You're done. So it's extraordinary. It's the culmination of these series of techniques. There's two main techniques, 6, 7 point something or other, and the exchanging self for others. And then Pabonka Rinpoche puts them together into 11 little stages, that culminates in this outrageous bodhicitta. It's not equivalent to compassion. It's the culmination of compassion. But then compassion comes from love. Love comes from this equanimity. So equanimity is the very first one to understand. It gives us a grounding. It's really important to understand it. So equanimity, the definition of it, using my own words, thinking of it like this. It's this when you got it, this heartfelt recognition that the friend, who is the object of attachment, the enemy, who is the object of our aversion, we might use the word enemy, but it's a person for whom we have aversion, a person who doesn't do what our attachment wants, and the person we label stranger, friend who does what my attachment wants, enemy who does what my attachment doesn't want, and stranger who neither does what I want nor what I don't want. So we feel we have love for the first one because they do what I want. We have aversion for the second one. We don't have any love at all for them. And we couldn't care less about the strangers. And that's 99.99% of the world. They could all drop dead. We do not mind. This is the universe. Just observe behavior, and you'll see this. It's a clear analysis because of attachment, aversion, and this primordial indifference as a result of this ignorance. If you do what my attachment wants, I call you my friend, and then I will be prepared to love you and have compassion for you. Because you do what I want. So in other words, my love and compassion is contingent upon your doing what my attachment wants, having my same politics, liking my music, being my people, liking my sport, speaking the way I like. Do you understand? This is just natural. We call it natural, and it's easy to like someone like that because they're saying everything you like. So we assume what friend means, but it's totally attachment. And then when you stop doing what my attachment wants, you go into the enemy category, don't you? And before both of those, you were the stranger category. So you could have dropped dead. I always use the example of Fred, There's Fred living down the road, a friend of Venerable Carol's, let's say. I always use this dumb example. There's Fred. I've never met Fred. And she tells me about his mate. She said, he gets migraine. And I said, oh, poor thing, does he really? And I sort of talk about half a second. I'd say, pass the sugar. Where's the coffee? Forget all about him. I couldn't care less. I don't know the man. I mean, it's reasonable. We try to be compassionate, don't we, about strangers? You read the papers and read your iPad and you get a bit of compassion, but it's back to the coffee in 5 minutes. We know that. And it feels not fair to think that I should be having compassion all the time. It's exhausting, isn't it? So anyway, I meet him one day, Fred, and then we fall in love and he moves me in. I'm moving with Fred. So suddenly he goes from the stranger category to the friend category. Now I adore him. And now guess what? I think of his hot migraines and diet and day. I pay his medical costs. I love him. I stay up late at night. Poor Fred. Oh, Rabina is so compassionate. Well, I'm sorry. Ask Fred before he met me how his migraines were, and he'll say they're terrible. Ask Fred when he's now in love with me what his migraines are like. He'll say they're terrible. There's not a fraction of difference. He wanted to be free of his migraines both times, but I only cared about him when he was doing what I wanted. So it shows how arbitrary we are. I mean, we should be embarrassed. And of course, when he gives me up for someone else, then of course I'm angry with Fred. I hope he suffers in his damn migraines, isn't it? This is how the world is. This is exactly the analysis of the world. And it's because of attachment and aversion and ignorance, They blind us. They make us as blind as bats. So we can see the illogic of these, especially when we look at it in this equanimity meditation. What we're trying to accomplish here isn't love and compassion yet. That comes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is just the ground, the foundation, the basis upon which we will build stable love, compassion, great compassion, bodhicitta. Equanimity is fundamentally necessary, and it's a logical analysis, not some emotional thing. Oh, everyone is the same. No, it is the heartfelt recognition, I didn't finish my sentence, that friend, enemy, and stranger, this is the point now, this is what it is, equally want to be happy and don't want to suffer. Or they're equal to each other from one point of view. From one point of view. They equally want to be happy. They equally don't want suffering. That we can prove logically. We know that that's the ground of the starting point, the basis, the foundation. When you know logically, let's say you've got a grandchild, and she plays with a smelly kid next door. You can't stand him. He's mean, you don't like the look of him, he's ugly. You think your little granddaughter's like an angel. You know what it's like. All you got to do, watch him like a hawk. He could be mean, it's true. But all you got to do is to stand back and think, well, you know what, Rabina? He feels, he wants, he doesn't feel the same. Don't say that as your granddaughter, because he might be really angry and nasty. It's true. But he only wants to be happy. He has, this is not something we say consciously, I want to be happy. It just, everything we do, everything we choose to do based on our karmic tendencies and everything else, everything we choose to do, say, and think is what we assume will make us happy. So he's driven by the wish to be happy. That's why he's mean, because he's got anger. So all you can do is remember this basic fact. He's driven by the wish to be happy and not suffer, just like your precious grandchild. You cannot distinguish. But all we do is see ugly and pretty. All we see is what our attachment wants to see, you see. But this Buddha's talking almost in one way. You could say the whole Buddhist path is taught in terms of how to stop suffering and how to get happy. It's exactly what the Four Noble Truths is. It's so clear, so simple, almost embarrassingly simple. So, then we say, oh, well, you mean Mr. Trump wants to be happy? What do you mean he wants to be happy? He doesn't deserve it, we'll say. This little kid, what do you mean he wants to be happy? He doesn't deserve it. So we have a heavy-duty view of he wants to be happy. Because we have our wish that someone be happy, again, like I said, is contingent upon their doing what I like. So we think, what do you mean the ex-boyfriend wants to be happy? It's painful for us to hear that. Because he's hurt me, and he did hurt you. We can prove it. But this is a fundamental drive. Why people harm others in the first place is because there's an assumption that'll get them what they want, which is to get happy. So it's logic. When you see that, it's not sentimental, then you can think twice. Still watch him. This little kid could be a creep. Yes, he might even hurt your granddaughter. I'm not saying he wouldn't. A pedophile will definitely hurt your grandchild. But that doesn't mean he doesn't want to be happy. But when we hear he wants to be happy, we think it gets him off the hook. Oh, the poor thing can't help but pat him on the head. It doesn't mean like that. It's not sentimental. It's a very powerful concept. Everyone's driven by the wish to be happy, not suffer. Of course, because of delusions, they're misled and they harm others. Definite fact. So it's a fundamental drive. You've got to really think about that. Anything we've ever done to harm others is because we want to be happy. You know, the only reason you left that boyfriend is because you want to be happy, even though you hurt him. Of course, it's all we ever do because we're samsaric. So equanimity is hugely important to understand. It's not sentimental. It's not emotional. It's logical. But you'll never know it until you know it for yourself, ever. You can't know that until you know it yourself, that you're driven by the wish to be happy and not suffering. This is why you can't really be a Buddhist without knowing Buddha's view of the mind. I promise you, you really can't. It's so vital. It's so crucial. It's so, because his view is so precise. We all love to know Buddhist psychology. I mean, Western psychology, and all the words, you know, and the framework and the assumptions. So different from Buddha's. I'm not saying not to know the West. We need to. Just a whole series of different assumptions about it, and you only know your own mind well, you know, when you understand this view. Attachment, aversion, these two fundamentals. From there you see the others. You know. Then it's easy to love other people. It's easy to want them to be happy. I mean, so that means when you see that, this is the part that's hard. Okay, so there's I like this way of looking at using the wisdom wing and the compassion wing as a basis for the way to see the world. So, you know, there you are reading your iPad or watching the television or whatever you do, read the news, for example. And there's a politician who says that this lady, Mr. Trump. I mean, some people like Mr. Trump. We can see that. They adore him. Let's say you don't like Mr. Trump. Let's say. And then what happens is you see Mr. Trump, and then the first thing we do, we have aversion. We say we have aversion. So you panic. Your attachment's not getting what it wants. You freak out. You're mad. You know, and there's this and he that. He lies. He steals. He's this. And you read the newspapers. So negative. It becomes so negative. Criticism. He's this. He's that. As if somehow we're a saint. Everyone's like that. The world is like that, you know. So there's an amazing way of using the two wings of the bird in that one event. And the first one's the wisdom one. So the way to do it is like this. You read about him. You keep your mind steady. Don't get scared. It's just attachment not getting what he wants while you have a panic attack. Be brave. See it for what it is. And then you go, well, there's jealousy. You can recognize jealousy, arrogance, hubris, lying. I mean, the Washington Post used to track his lies, you know. I think they valued them in terms of 1 to 5 Pinocchios. They tracked every single, they were identified as his lies, and tracked them all, and lumbered them, labeled them, you know. So you go, there's a lie, there's stealing, there's arrogance. You can say that. It's true. You recognize right there. And then you say, I recognize that. And I swear to you, there's not one delusion you see in him that you won't see in your own mind. Because you're in samsara too. Maybe he's a worse. Maybe you see a pedophile. Yes, you don't want to jump on little boys. That's a fact. But you've got attachment. It's just attachment. Due to past karma, attachment to jumping on little boys. Don't be hysterical. Okay, you protect. It's not, it's got to be very clinical about it. But you've got attachment to cake, being loved, getting what you want. So you go, there it is. I recognize attachment. And then you can go, thank you for showing me how not to be. And I mean that one. It's very powerful. And then that's the wisdom wing taken care of. You've really seen the problem. You've confronted it and you've turned it back and made a teaching for yourself. That's how you look at the whole world. And then it won't make you crazy. It won't give you a panic attack because you understand it. And then you see karma. You look at the war, Ukraine and Russia, wherever the latest war is. And it's karmic. Powerful past karma, between these two groups of people, destroying each other. So you get even a more powerful lesson. And thank you for showing me how to be. And then you reiterate your own practice. Keep your vows, never harm. So suddenly the world becomes the basis for your practice. Then you can go to the compassion wing and have compassion. Why? Because they are harming themselves by harming others. The bodhisattvas have more compassion for the harmer than the harmed, because the harmed has just finished their karma and the harmer is just beginning theirs. So if you have the view of karma and the delusion, Buddha's analysis, you have the basis for interpreting the world, keeping yourself steady, growing your own wisdom, granting your own renunciation, and developing love and compassion. That's the point, Everything becomes grist for your mill. Otherwise, we become frightened, fearful, anxious, neurotic, scared of our thoughts, scared of the world, depressed, because we can't look at anything, because we don't have the analysis. We haven't got an analysis. Okay, if you're a Christian and a devoted Christian, you have an analysis. You know God has a plan, you love God, you have faith in God, and you accept. Or a good Muslim, anybody who believes in a creator, if you're really doing it properly, you'll live a good life. But if you've got a materialist view, quite frankly, I can't see the basis. I can't see any reason why you wouldn't get upset and angry if you have a materialist view only, because there's no explanation for why it all is. We all say, oh, no one knows. We haven't discovered it yet, they'll say, meaning science, So we get confused and panic-stricken, blame everybody else, trying to get off the hook. It's a disaster. Do you want to ask some questions, please? That's a bit of a discussion about love and compassion. Ask some questions. Anybody, please. Any old thing. Come on.
Hi, Venerable Lamrim.
Yes, where are you? Who's talking? Oh, yes, good sweetheart.
So, I just thought about something I think the Dalai Lama said, which is no enemy inside, no enemy
no
outside.
What?
No enemy inside, no enemy outside.
Good. So what's the question?
So how what does that exactly mean?
I'll tell you. Good, very good point. Good. Thank you. Okay, this brings us to this point where there's a distinction between a fact out there, a bad person, that's a fact. You can see the truth, it's a fact, and your aversion. If you don't have aversion, you see, what we assume is, well, there's a bad person. Well, of course I'm angry. Do you understand my point? Of course I see an enemy. An enemy is an object of aversion. But if you've given up anger, do you think that suddenly means the person turns into a saint because you don't get angry anymore? Don't be silly. Are you hearing my point here? So you see a bad person, they are a pedophile, they do harm children. Let's say it's a fact. But because we assume, but therefore I'm angry is natural, then you give up anger. Then how could you? So when you've given up anger, how could you see that person as an enemy? Because enemy is the object of anger. Are you hearing me? I don't think you are. You don't look like you're hearing what I'm saying.
No, I am.
Say it back to me.
So,
give it the mic. Say it back to me what I'm saying.
So,
there's a pedophile and there's you. Normally you get angry, so that means enemy. But now you've given up anger, so then you no longer have an enemy, do you?
Right.
So then how would you see them now? That's the point now. What would you see now? You'd see the facts. They're a pedophile.
Yeah.
Before it was pedophile painted by anger.
Right.
But now you just see pedophile. So the analysis I just talked about before, if you did that, you heard me before, how would you now feel about that pedophile?
I'd recognize those things.
You see their bad behavior.
That.
And what do you mean by recognize?
Acknowledge it.
You'd see they're a pedophile.
Right.
Then how would you feel about it?
And then
what would you then do with it?
I would say thank you for showing.
All that I understood before. And then you'd have compassion.
And then
therefore no enemy.
Okay.
Can you not hear that?
Yeah.
It's very clear. Yeah. We assume an enemy is a bad person. No, an enemy is a person that our version doesn't like. It doesn't mean they're good or bad. You can like it. You can hate a saint.
Right. Just
because you don't like them, they're your enemy.
Yeah.
But they could be a good person. Or you might, do you want to see my point?
Yeah.
Or a mother loves her pedophile child. Do you understand?
Right.
We've got to distinguish between the fact and then our interpretation of it. Even stubbing your toe. You stub your toe and you get angry. We'll say, well, of course I'm angry. I've just stubbed my toe. That's not logical. Stubbing your toe is a sensory event. Anger is an extra thought on top that interprets it as bad because your attachment only wants nice things. So that makes it worse. So we see a bad person, we assume, well, naturally I'm angry. How dare he do that? He is evil, and we get upset. We can't distinguish between the facts and our interpretation of the facts. That's the big thing we have to learn.
Yeah.
Do you see my point?
Yeah.
It doesn't alter the fact that he's a bad person. It just reiterates, and it strengthens your reality. And you have then compassion because of karma and compassion because he's harming himself as well as harming others. It's an analysis.
Okay.
Do you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good, darling. Put the mic there. Yes.
Your comment about getting angry at stomping your toe.
That again, what? That one?
Comment about getting angry
when you stub your toe. Okay.
Made me think about, I'm sure I'm not alone in this, but to me, it's easier to think about, say, your, bad person example, right? And I can go through the analysis, like, oh, it's my aversion. He's just simply somebody who's, suffering from karma and delusion, and he just wants to be happy in his misinterpretation and thinks that whatever being a pedophile makes him happy, but it's the sort of, it's just that, and I think, I feel compassion for him because I know he just wants to be happy, right?
Well, no, you have compassion for him. No, you know already he's driven by the wish to be happy, and that's why he harms others, because of his karma. But then you have incredible compassion, and this is the hardest one. The basis of compassion for the pedophile, why do you think that is? Why would you have compassion for a person who harms another? That's the question. What's the basis here? Once we get it, but it's hard to hear it. What is the basis for your having compassion for the person who harms another?
In part because he is not fully in control.
No. There's a simple reason. It's because he's creating negative karma and putting. Now that's no, but that's the point. Yeah. That's the only reason. And one reason is because he's blind as a bat. He assumes that harming others is the way to get himself what he wants happy, which we all the same. That's why you're mean to your your mother, and you're mean to your sister because you're driven by attachment.
Forget the allegory story of the boat, of the murderer in the boat, and the bodhisattva who could see that.
Well, that's a different discussion. That's a different discussion, though. That's a different one completely.
But still, he had so much compassion.
Yeah, no, and he had compassion for the harmer, so he even did something. He would rather suffer the result, even extra level of it. Yeah, but that has to. This is the point, you see. I mean, this is the point that the Buddhists would say. The reason to have such compassion for the world is not even because we haven't realized emptiness. It's not even because we haven't got bodhicitta. It's because we don't understand karma. So we all assume we're innocent victims. We didn't ask to get born. God or mummy plonked us on the planet, and then we deserve only good things and we don't deserve bad. So we blame everybody else. That's the cause of so much unbearable pain on this planet among animals, humans, and that's the basis of incredible compassion. Once we get that, then we know it. Then we really when we can move forward.
What about blaming yourself?
What about, darling?
Blaming yourself. Hence,
what about it?
Getting angry at yourself.
Yeah, that's right. We love to get
with stumping your toe.
We love to get angry at ourselves. Now, there's something the toe is just because you're angry. Vague. The anger is kind of vague there because your toe didn't do it. You can't be angry at the rock, so you don't know quite who to blame. You're just angry because your attachment doesn't get what it wants. Anger is a natural response of attachment not getting what it wants, which is comfort. So, but harming ourselves is, I think, the only way to really understand why we hate ourselves. It's very linked. See, attachment and aversion, the more we understand them, the more we unpack them, the more they're all the same in a sense. So look at this. Okay. Attachment is this, it's dissatisfaction. So we get born with it. So there's a feeling already of not satisfied. I don't have enough, right? So it's in a sense, it's aversion. What I've got isn't enough. So it's aversion in a way. So then that drives in the craving. I must get the cake. All excited, anticipating the cake, over-exaggerating its deliciousness, over-exaggerating its role, and knowing that happiness will come. So we have all this expectation, and then you get the cake, and you're not happy yet, and it turns into disgust again. So every time you go to follow attachment, expecting happiness, in the end, all you get is more dissatisfaction. So in the end, that's aversion. So the more dissatisfied we are, it's not only I don't have enough, but I am not enough. So that's self-hate. It's really the function of the practice of attachment, because practicing following attachment with the belief that I'll get happy feelings, it only ends up bringing more unhappy feelings and more dissatisfaction. So in the end, it's a symptom of self-loathing. And we're very good at it in our culture. It's just dissatisfaction. So attachment and aversion are so linked you almost can't separate them. Do you understand? They're like different aspects at different stages in the process. Do you understand what I'm saying? So this is why we loathe ourselves, and that we always turn against ourselves. And I mean, I've never yet met a person who says, Rabina, I can't stop thinking good thoughts. You just don't meet a person who says that, Even nice people who are kind and loving still have negative self-thoughts. I'm not good enough. Because they're always not good enough. I'm never good enough. It is never enough. No matter what I do, what I have, what I think, what I feel, never enough. It's always default. It's not enough, which is aversion, which is self-hate.
Just blaming yourself all the time. Or blaming yourself all the time.
Well, I'm trying to give the analysis of it. Attachment and aversion is so linked. Do you understand? So what we have to learn to do, we have to, as Lamrim puts it, we have to practice being satisfied. And this is a whole other kettle of fish, because our big problem is we live at the level of our senses, don't we? We're totally dominated. Lamrim says we make the body the boss. So our sensory experiences are our very first level that we go to get some happy feeling. The five senses, depending on which one is more strong for us, right? We don't pay any attention to the mental happiness. We don't even know such a thing exists. And the point, this is the part that's shocking. You can, as a kid, I'm attached to food. I'm always attached. My main attachment to food. So as a kid, I know was very clear. I would eat until I was full, because I didn't know how else to know what satisfied meant. I didn't ever heard of mental satisfaction. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? I didn't know what that meant. I just knew I had a feeling of being full, so I assumed that was satisfaction. But of course, it's not. It's just having a full stomach. Satisfaction, it's a mental state, and you have to practice it. It won't come. We assume satisfaction will come when you get the cake, when you're filled up. No, that's more dissatisfaction, because now you feel stuffed and aversion has taken over. So satisfaction is a mental state, and we have to cultivate it. It does not come from sensory things. It can't possibly come from getting sensory objects. So we have to practice thinking the thoughts, I'm fulfilled, I'm content, I'm satisfied, which means you've got to make a decision to stop eating the cake before you want to vomit, which is where discipline comes in. So you have to practice having happy thoughts, practice having content thoughts. It sounds hilarious to us because it doesn't seem to work, but it takes a long time. But that's like anything, you're prepared to practice, it'll come. We have to practice having content thoughts, not just starving yourself and thinking I'm giving up attachment. You get too miserable. You've got to then say, I'm really doing a good job. I'm happy. I'm content with this amount of cake. And like anything, you practice those thoughts. And if you say them every day, before you know it, you'll start to believe them. Do you understand? Not just go on a diet and sit there starving. That's never going to give up attachment. You've got to add to it, I'm content. I mean, it sounds so corny to us because we don't believe it's going to work. But we all know practice makes perfect. We've got to consciously be content. Say the words. I'm satisfied. I'm content. I'm fulfilled. That's enough. I've done well. And then praise ourselves. I did a good job. I did a good job. And our trouble in our culture too is when we say I'm content or I'm satisfied, we think it's complacency. We think we've got to continue to be hungry to want to do more. But my feeling is it's a mistake, Like if you're practicing the piano and you just passed grade 1, I mean, you're only in grade 1 and you've got 400 to go. So the negative one is, I'm only in grade 1. Maybe I'll get happy if I get to grade 2. I'm only in grade 2. So you'll get to 900 grade, you'll still be unhappy. So you've got to be happy at each stage. Content, I did a good job. And that's what rejoicing means, but we never rejoice. Nobody rejoices. Nobody consciously has positive thoughts. We get embarrassed. We get guilty. We think it's pride. But this is what practicing being content means. Do you understand? That's what mental happiness then will come. Not from food, not from the sensory things, not from sleep, not from being praised, not from cake, not from the senses. We can, so we have to just work hard on our minds. It's huge practice. We forget because default is negative. Default is not enough. Default is, everybody I think I've ever met, we're all the same, unless you're a really evolved person, Just your bodhisattva already, or giving up dramatic levels of attachment, So that's why we can get very punitive and nasty to ourselves, and if we just did the wisdom wing alone, only giving up attachment and giving up anger and giving up this and never praising and never rejoicing and never having a positive thought. We can't just give up negative thoughts. We've got to have positive thoughts on top. And we've got to cultivate those and say them consciously. I'm doing a good job. I'm okay. I am satisfied. One piece is enough. Your stomach, your attachment habit doesn't believe it. It just wants to keep eating. But you have to practice. That's why if you're on a diet, don't just give up attachment and starve. Be delighted. Be happy. Rejoice. Be content. Practice being content, which means say the words. It's a mental state, people. You can't feel content yet, but you can say it and you program your mind. I can't stress this enough. What else, people? Anybody else there, Michael?
We have one on the Zoom. Somebody has their hand raised.
Hello, Shmita. Talk to me, sweetheart. Talk to me, darling. Happy to see you
Hi,
again.
Venerable. Thank you so much for the teaching.
Yeah, good.
Being a lay practitioner with a family,
Yes.
you always, I'm aware that our love for family is always mixed with attachment.
Yes.
How do we transform that into something which is love without attachment?
Exactly, darling. Well, first of all, it's impossible. Okay, it's sort of saying that, it's impossible to go from having lots of attachment one day to having pure love the next. It's like saying you started practicing tennis today and tomorrow you can play like Roger Federer. It's just not possible. It's a process. So we have to the first step is to identify the attachment, the neediness, the attachment, the expectation, the possessiveness, especially when it's family and it's very pervasive. The more you identify it and can distinguish it from the virtue, distinguish it from the wisdom and the love and the clarity, then you practice harnessing the attachment and not following that, and you practice following the love and the virtue. It's a very conscious, conceptual, cognitive process, but it's got to come from clear understanding of the difference between attachment and love. But 99% with family is just we're on autopilot, so it demands practice. And this is why also, Shmita, the first step is so powerful. We don't think of it very much, but it's a really powerful practice. In the first stages of Buddhist practice, there's no discussion about the mind. It's all about body and speech. It's the very first level of practice is control your body, control your speech, live in your vows, have discipline. And I swear to you, if we can control our speech, which is the servant of attachment, the servant of the anger, you'll solve 99% of your problems with your husband, with your children, but you don't vomit out the words. We don't pay attention to this in our culture. We just think anger and speech are the same, attachment, but speech is the first level. If we don't say the words, you've got attachment raging in your head, you've got anger raging in your head, but you're harnessing the physical energy, then you won't make the problems. So speech, control the speech, especially among friends. You don't go around raping and killing too many people, but speech is the problem, especially with family, because we just usually vomit out everything we feel, and then the damage is done. So have a strong decision to first control your behavior, which is speech, and then you can control the mind. There's a nice saying, they say, when you're with others, control your behavior, your speech and your body, and when you're on your own, you work on your mind. So this is tremendous practice, especially in family. Do you understand? And then slowly, this kind of practice is really intense, full on, as Lama Yeshe would put it. It always sounds cute, being your own therapist. It's really true. It's a very conscious, cognitive process, very conscious process, internal, Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's wonderful. We say practice makes perfect, but I love the way the Tibetans say it. They say nothing ever gets more difficult with practice. It's a more humble way to put it. Nothing ever gets more difficult with practice. Isn't that wonderful? It's much nicer. It's encouraging, So
Thank you.
Keep going. Thanks, Schmidt. Yes, anybody up there too? Anybody here, people? Yes.
Venerable Rabina, you just mentioned the book by Lama Yeshe, I Become Your Therapist, I think.
Well, there's one of the little booklets that Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archive published. They called it Being Your Own Therapist, yeah.
And it reminded me, when I was at Land of Medicine Buddha, I saw in the gift shop, there was a t-shirt and it said, "Good enough, dear."
Yeah, that's Lama Yeshe's favorite.
I was curious if you could.
Oh, that's Lama Yeshe. Never stop. It's Lama Yeshe could see when he first met Westerners, this is why this is why for me, whether he was a high being or a low being, whatever he is, you can see the benefit of this system because it's so you work on your mind. So when he knew his own mind intimately, and all he could do was look outside and you can see someone else. They're the same because we're cut from the same cloth. So this wisdom, and we all think, we mystify this kind of wisdom. We think, oh, wow, they're so special. But it's just common sense. You know yourself, if you work on your own mind, you can see the minds of others. So Lama, when he first met all the hippies, he could see the grotesqueness of our self-loathing, the uncontrolled self-pity, the self-loathing, the everything out the mouth, So everybody was always complaining, always hopeless. I'm no good. I'm so depressed. I'm so angry. I'm so jealous. I'm kind of it was so self-centered. We didn't even keep it to ourselves, It's gross out the mouth. So all he ever did was try to calm it down and tell us everything's nice, everything's good, you're doing a good job, good enough, dear, because we're never satisfied. So just to say to ourselves, I'm good enough, I did good enough, I'm well, it's a huge thing to say. Because the addiction is to think I'm not enough and I didn't do enough and I'm not well enough and I'm not thin enough and I'm not clean enough and I'm not happy enough and I'm, no matter what it is, we're never satisfied. So he's trying to say it's okay, good enough, dear. It's huge. It sounds so cute, but it's huge. Do you understand? Do you understand? Good, Johnny. So say it a few times to yourself. It's okay, you down there. Come on, open your mouth. Tell me something. Lynn's daughter.
I guess, could you talk more about the sensory of, let's say you stub your toe, and that's just a fact that you stub your toe.
Yeah.
But it's the filtering of who you are at that very moment that puts it into a...
No, darling, keep it even more simple. Keep it even more simple. No, keep it even more simple. We have a body. It's got the 5 senses, and we have attachment. And attachment's mental. Attachment. Okay, go back more basic. This just sounds. It's a huge thing. Sensory. We've got sensory consciousness, and we have mental consciousness. So the Buddhist analysis is very clear. I always use this example. I'll do it here. I will say all the time I do this. It's exactly the example. I will say, "What a pretty cup." I said it last time. So when naturally we all assume that Marina's eyes come over here and she sees a pretty cup. So we think pretty cup is an object of my eyes. You with me? Are you with it? Do you see what I'm saying? Don't be ridiculous, Buddha says, because the sensory consciousnesses are profoundly limited in their capacity for cognition. So eye consciousness only can cognize 2 things, shape and color. There's no intelligence there. It's bare bones. But because we have the mental consciousness, which is where the workshop is, which is where the thousands of thoughts and opinions and ideas and feelings and emotions that we've built up over, Buddha would say, countless lifetimes, and that we retain in there, and we write novels with all of that. It's not our eyes that write a novel. Ear consciousness can only hear bare sound. The senses are really limited. But because mental consciousness, I mean this, what's going to happen here, quicker than Google, the millisecond eye consciousness sees this shape and color. The millisecond tactile consciousness, is impacted by the rock. The millisecond, instantaneously quicker than Google, based upon your personality, how much anger you have, how much attachment, how many opinions I have about this. I will say, what a pretty cup. You'll say, scream, yell, shout. So the mental is an opinion we put on top of the sensory. So we live the world based on our senses. We open our eyes and all we're seeing is the object of the 5 senses. And then our mental consciousness takes over and writes stories. It should be very humbling for us to think this. So we can change our mental consciousness. Maybe we can reinterpret it. That's what we're trying to do here, is reinterpret the entire damn world through the lenses of virtue and wisdom and goodness and clarity. Are we communicating? Are we communicating?
Yes.
Thank you. So we have to watch the bloody mind every millisecond. That's the point. The senses are dumb animals, but we give them power like inconceivable. We only think everything is sensory. We don't distinguish between ugly politician and our view. We don't distinguish between stubbing the toe and our view. We don't distinguish between my eyes seeing shape and color and my view. This is the miracle, to start to become aware of our thoughts. And then we start to, distinguish between the neurotic thoughts and the virtuous thoughts, because there's only 2 kinds, and they're mixed like a big fat soup. Are we communicating? Good, darling. This is how you get happy, and this is how you get compassion and love. Hard job. That's right. Sensory consciousness and mental. That's where the workshop is. Quicker than Google. Quicker than Google. Every millisecond we have opinions. We live in our opinions. And the tragedy is, listen to me. The tragedy is, the worst one is, we would never 1 millisecond think that a pretty cup is an opinion. I think pretty cup is in the cup along with the paint and the clay. I think it's an absolute objective truth, and I'm observing external reality. That's the problem. As Lama Zopa says, bad enough that the whole outside world out there appears back to us in the aspect of what's in my mental consciousness, and then I believe it's an objective truth. We are insane. So we have to start analysing our opinions. They're all opinions, baby. Some opinions are valid and some are bullshit. We have to distinguish between the bullshit opinions and the valid ones, virtue and non-virtue. That's what brings you sanity, and that's what helps you help others. Do you understand? Good. There's a hand there. Go, darling.
Hello. I'm not sure I want to do this, but I'm going to do it.
Go on, try it. Sweetheart, good to see you. Go on.
And you. This isn't what I was going to ask, but I'm going to ask it now.
Yeah.
So yes, I can see how you're saying this is a pretty cup. It's an opinion. Is saying it's a cup also an opinion?
Good, yes. This is where we keep going, and finally Buddha would say they're all conceptual stories. Even the one that is the cup itself, there's no inherent cup. We've got to start somewhere, though. At least with the negative and the positive. The fact it's a good cup or ugly cup, good person, ugly person, nice person. At least those start calming down attachment and aversion opinions and start to shape them a bit. And then we get to the root one and realize emptiness. Do you understand?
No, but yes.
Well, you know the theory. You understand the stages,
theory,
the progress.
in terms
Yeah,
of realization.
exactly. Yeah, exactly, darling. That's right. Exactly.
So the other question,
Yeah.
so when I was thinking, that's been mulling in my mind. So let's say you get to the point where there's somebody who does bad things to other people.
Yes.
And causes them great deal.
That's
of
right. Exactly.
You've gotten rid of your anger, and you have compassion, and then what?
Then you do what you can to help. As Martin Luther King said, he said, it's good to be angry, meaning good to find fault. But then you say, what can I do to help? Instead of just, I give up anger. Then we think if you give up anger, you just don't care. No, you try to help. And if you can do something to help, do it. But 99% of the time, I'm sorry, we can't help. We can't help. But if we can do something to help, that's what comes. That's active compassion. If you can help a person. But that's where at the moment, we're all over the place, all being running around trying to help the world, but we haven't got any wisdom at all. We make a mess. So we're going to have some wisdom. Adding to compassion, as Dalai Lama says, compassion is not enough. You've got to have wisdom, which is understanding the problem, understanding the analysis, and if there's something I can do to help it, go, baby. But 99% of the time, we can't help.
I also wonder, because I think in addition to anger, there's also, when faced with something like this, and particularly in a larger societal sense, there's also fear.
Well, fear. Let's talk about fear. It's a really good point. But actually, fear, as we know, the Buddha's analysis of the mind got the neuroses, attachment, anger, anxiety, jealousy, low self-esteem, self-loathing, you name it, all of these, they're all twisted, contorted, disturbing, distressing, I-based, and not valid insofar as they're made up nonsense. They're distorted and exaggerated. Do you understand? So they're the ones that are causing pain and suffering, totally. Then you've got the virtues, love, compassion, kindness, and they're relatively valid because they're connected to others and they're sane and they're not the source of pain and suffering. They're the source of being of benefit to others, right? So what did you say? I forget your question. What?
About fear.
Okay, so the point is the nature of all the neuroses is fear. They're all rooted in fear. I mean, if you see an angry person, if you see a kid shouting, I will go, oh, look at him, he's just being angry. We'll kind of crack a joke. But listen to him. The eyes wide, spit coming out the mouth, hysterical, irrational words, like as if the whole world has collapsed. The boy is having a complete mental breakdown. If that's not fear, I don't know what is. But we don't think of it like that. We only think fear is when the heart beats fast, someone's trying to threaten you. But that's what anger is. All the delusions are rooted in fear. Ego grasping, the very root delusion, is the personification of fear. And why fear? Because Buddha would say that for eons, there have been these fantasy stories we've exaggerated and made up and we've believed. So there's this massive disconnect between reality and our view of it. So that's guaranteed to be fear. So in other words, for eons, it's like for eons, you've believed that $50 note is a $500 note. You've believed it for so long it even appears 500. So you have all this attachment, all this expectation, all this craving, all this excitement. And then what will you have when you spend it and only get 50's worth? Disappointment. Panic. So we've built up these delusions for so many eons, so their fear is their nature. And that's why most people are anxious and neurotic, because we're living in delusions. When you're giving up delusions, there is no fear. Not possible. Impossible. Because virtues are not rooted in fear. So it's a very specific analysis of the Buddha's view. It's fascinating. We have fear because we have delusions. Because attachment's terrified it won't get what it wants. We're living in fear every second of anticipating the things that might happen we don't want. That's why we're afraid. That's what anxiety is.
Even fear of things that will affect a lot.
What, darling?
People. Even fear of things.
It's
that
all the
will
same. It's
affect
just
a
the
lot.
same. It's no different. It's just the same. It's just the same. It's just the same. Because it's what our attachment doesn't want. And our compassion is there too. Of course. Understand? Anybody else?
We have a raised hand in the Zoom.
Oh, okay, go talk to me. Yes.
All right, I unmuted. Hello, Robina. Hello, Venerable. Hello. I've been really working hard every day, a few times a day, with my meditation and the thoughts that would come into my head that I definitely didn't want there, just to notice them, like you told me back a week ago. And I wanted to share with you that the cutest thing has been happening. There I'll be.
That's what people say. Joey was shocked to hear that you didn't have to fight the thoughts and make them go away. So you have this exhausting meditation pushing her thoughts away. And she heard she could just let them be. It was kind of a shock for her, but she's been practicing.
Yes, it sure has been. So the cutest thing has been happening lately, since you told me, what to do with my meditation. So there I am meditating in the steam room.
In the steam room.
In the steam room, yeah. And that's my favorite place to meditate. And so there I am, and some thoughts and people are coming into my head that I don't want there, but I'm just noticing, not trying to push it out, just noticing. And then all of a sudden, here comes Robina, you and your head, your bald head.
Fine.
So it's you.
Happy I was there in the steam room with you.
It's been, yes, every single time.
Okay.
You're there, and it's just been so cute, and just it makes me chuckle, it makes me smile.
Good on you, girl.
And yeah, it is pleasant. So you're with me when I'm meditating. Thank you, Robina. Venerable Robina. My question to you tonight is, can a person believe in a creator, like the creator of the universe, God, and also Buddha's teachings?
Sweetheart, I think it's a simple point. There's so much. I mean, put it this way: can you could say, could I have a faith in Creator and like some communist views? Of course you could. Get past all the political labels of all these things. What you're finding, you want to find the common ground between different viewpoints. And if you can find virtuous thoughts and virtuous activities in communism or Buddhism and Christianity, then you found the similarity. When it comes down to the bottom line about is there a creator or not, then the Buddhist view would say no, and Christianity would say yes. And if that's the main issue, then you have to choose. But there's so much crossover. So you can use the best from Buddhism if you like God, love God, but bring in Buddhism to help you become a better Christian. Totally no contradiction whatsoever. No contradiction. Do you understand?
Okay. I do, and it's not Christianity. It's just believing in the creator of the universe. I study Kabbalah.
Okay. Oh, fine.
Yeah, I study Kabbalah, but I'm just leaning so much towards what you're teaching.
I understand.
In my life.
Evolve. You let it evolve, Joey. Don't force. Okay. Don't make things up. Don't get it all square and everything. Just move forward and see what works for you, and let it evolve, Joey. It's the best. Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Who is this? Hope. Is it my Hope, whom I've known for 47 years? It is Hope. Oh my goodness, Hope. Sweetheart. Put her on the half screen, Michael. I want to see her. Yes. Good heavens, look at you in Mexico. Honey child, what are you doing there? You live there now.
Yes. We moved here 2.5 years ago.
And you're content? You're happy?
Yes, I love Mexico. It's a very kind place with kind people and lots of color and joy. I love it very much. Thank you so much. I have a question. We're talking about the pedophile, and I have a bigger question. There are people, the pedophile does it one person at a time. And while they may have volume, they can only have so much volume. Whereas there are people who are having a bigger effect on more people, equally dreadful.
terrible. That's exactly right, darling.
I'm wondering if we're talking about what to do with the pedophile. So it's, you try to do that. But is forgiveness a step on the path, or is forgiveness just about the I?
No, I understand. It's a really good question, Hope. And I like to go back a little bit and look at it, and especially in our culture, look at the evolution of it as a source of it. So my feeling is the source of it is totally linked to Christianity. And it's not a critical point. This is an analysis, because look at why. God, if you're a Christian, you have faith in a being who is the source of the universe. He creates the universe. He is the source of me, the source of goodness and not badness, but he creates me, and he's the boss. So I know, this is my point now. I always quote this, my Jesuit priest friend years ago. This is a crucial point to understand philosophically. I said, by definition, what is a sin? What is a negative action? What makes an action wrong? He said, by definition, it's because God said not to do it. So this is the point now. So if you have that view, I have faith in a creator and I go against God's will. This is the point, Hope. I have to go to God and beg him to forgive me. And it's forgiveness that heals me. So we bring that naturally into our daily lives. It's a huge quality, and it is. So if I've harmed you, it is marvelous for me to request you to forgive me. But my problem would be, let's say you won't forgive me, then I'm stuck. I feel that I might as well kill myself because I can't be purified, because your forgiveness what purifies me. And I think we can misuse that. So, like if I'm say you're my sister and I badmouth you every day and I ring you up, I'm so sorry, Hope, I'm so sorry, I don't mean to badmouth you, please forgive me. And I'm waiting for you to say, oh, Rabina, it's all right, I still love you. And I go, phew, I'm off the hook again. But until I decide to change, nothing's going to happen. So if we can misuse forgiveness. I can misuse this wishing you forgive me to get me off the hook to make me feel better. It's really wrong. So
I'm not talking about you asking me for forgiveness. I'm saying
I know that, but it's the same thing. So then I'm saying how we can misuse forgiveness in our relationships to get me off the hook. But equally, I know your question. So equally, if other people harm, so the Christian view would be forgiveness because we know God forgives them too. But the Buddhist one, they don't talk so much about forgiveness. They would talk about the view I've just had before. If we have the view of karma, if I realize all those terrible harmers due to past karma are now harming millions of people, I know that they're harming themselves and they're going to have countless lives of unbearable suffering. That's the basis of compassion for the harmers. And then, of course, on the basis of that, of course I would forgive them, but it doesn't get them off the hook. They've got to do something. Forgiveness from that perspective, of course, Hope, it is only for my benefit, which is a very healing thing, because he couldn't care less if he has my forgiveness. He's not asking for it. So it is a good thing, and it can be misused. So I'm taking both aspects. It's definitely for our benefit. I remember when I was working with prisoners, and one man whose son had been murdered, he said he couldn't get to many stages he got to, but he could never get to the point of saying, I forgive. He couldn't forgive. And you could see it was torture for him. Yes. So for ourselves, yes, forgiving. But I mean, the Buddhist view is going to come along with compassion and understanding karma and seeing how he's and why he's doing it. But it's very beneficial for one's own mind. There's no question. But also what I'm saying, incidentally, we can misuse it. Getting you to forgive me gets me off the hook, and it's not appropriate at all. And the Buddhist view is it's not forgiveness that heals me; it's my own inner work that heals me. Do you get when I've done something wrong? You get my point now.
I do get your point. I think that for me, because some of these things I experience enormous amounts of anger. The victimization here, I work with immigrant children, and the victimization of them, I experience unbearable anger. What do I do with it? I'm not evolved. So what I've tried to do with it is to look at the other person. I understand their suffering. I can't get there. So I just want to say, I forgive you because I know you've got your problems. You've got your delusions.
That's right.
And I want to forgive you, but it's to deal with my own anger.
That's the point, Hope. You've got to realize that is for you. It is a step that is necessary for you, because it mightn't have the slightest effect on this person. It is for your benefit, and don't ever put that down. It's a brilliant technique for your benefit. Use it. The other person couldn't care less about your forgiveness. It is a brilliant technique. It'll help you soften yourself, and for your own, you are the beneficiary of that. So use it as much as you can for your sake. Definitely. Good on you, girl. Happy to see you, darling. So happy to see you.
We have one more raised hand.
Good, Sasha.
Hello, Venerable Rabina. Nice to meet you. My question is very, very practical. So you have explained a technique for getting to compassion or away from hatred when reading a newspaper about someone you don't agree with. But imagine I'm in the car and like the person is poking their nose and it's creating an insane amount of aversion into my system. How do I find a technique where I can't like get away from this source?
Oh, no. It's not easy. I mean, everything. Listen, Sasha, I think also it's practice. So you don't have to wait until the event happens before you say, how can I get over the anger? You've got to practice in the day-to-day life and tiny baby things. Practice when you stub your toe. Practice when you hear an annoying sound, because it all builds up, and then you're more equipped when you're in the car and the person's staring you in the face. If you haven't practiced, it's too late to do it. It's hard to do it on the spot. So you've got to practice. That's why daily practice is so important. And don't wait for the big event, it's like intense on the freeway, to do it. If you've done it every day in the small events, because every time your attachment doesn't get what it wants, that's what annoyance is. So don't wait for the strong anger to come. Deal with the small annoyances, and that builds you up and strengthens you. It's a process. Are you seeing my point, sweetheart?
Yes. And if I may, what is that practice that I can do beforehand if that arises?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Every time something bad happens, that's when aversion arises, and anger is just a strong level of aversion. So what I'm saying is 1,000 times a day, Sasha, you're going to meet a situation that your attachment doesn't want. Can you hear that?
Sorry, I wasn't asking that. I wasn't asking that question. I was asking now to go deeper. Okay, so let's say I stub my toe, and
but I am asking. I'm giving you the analysis. I want to go back again, and I'm giving you the analysis. So there you are. All of us, Sasha, are walking through life with an assumption. It's not articulate to us. With an assumption that we must only get the nice things. That's deep. It's an assumption, Sasha. Can you hear me? That's the functioning of attachment. It's all the time this yearning to get lovely experiences, nice taste, nice smell, nice feelings, nice event. It's not articulate. You're not walking through the life thinking, I must get nice things. It's just an assumption that only the nice things should happen. So you stub your toe. Your boyfriend slurps his coffee. The person says one little tiny mean word. You hear an annoying sound. Are you familiar with me so far, what I'm saying? They're all moments when your attachment gets upset and it turns into aversion. This is mild anger. So that's what you learn to deal with. You then say, it's only a sound. You argue with yourself. You counteract the attachment and the panic, and you say, it's only a sound, Sasha. I can handle that ugly sound. It's only a stub in the toe. Analyze it. It's just a physical feeling. It's only annoying. It's only the coffee slurping. You analyze, you argue with the aversion, and you calm yourself down. Are you hearing me? That's what daily practice is, sweetheart. And then you're more equipped for the serious thing when it happens. Are we communicating?
Yeah, I think so. Yes, I understand this is a mind practice. I have a fear that, is there risk of doing a spiritual bypass in this way?
What else do you mean by that? You have to give me an analysis of a spiritual bypass. What does it mean?
Well, when you when a feeling arises and you push it away instead of...
No, I'm not. No, you're completely misinterpreting me.
Okay.
You're completely misinterpreting what I'm saying. I am not saying... You're calling it a feeling. I'm calling it a thought. Aversion is when you stub your toe. That's the feeling, the stubbing the toe. I'm not saying deny the stubbing the toe. I'm saying you notice aversion. You curse. You get angry. How dare that? How dare I stub my toe? That's called anger. I'm saying catch the anger and argue with it. I'm not saying deny that you stubbed your toe. That's idiocy. I'm not saying deny that your husband is just slurping his coffee. That's an event, but your interpretation of it is what I'm talking about. It's aversion. Then that's what you argue with it. Then you say it's only slurp. That's not bypass. That's not denial. It's analysis. You're analyzing your thoughts second by second by second, because this is the source of how to get happy. You're not bypassing anything. You're dealing with what's in your mind, not bypassing it. That's called denial. That's nightmarish. It's a radical difference. What do you think? Can you hear the difference between denial and I'm not saying deny? Okay, tell me how it doesn't sound right to you. Just say it out loud. Talk to me. What do you say?
Well, it sounds really. Oh, sorry.
Give me a simple event in daily life where you try to put this into practice and explain to me how you think it's spiritual bypass, but whatever you call it, bypass.
Well, I'll just say very simply. Sometimes the response in my body is so overwhelming.
I'm not discussing your body, and that's the point, Sasha. This is the problem. We don't notice what's going on in our minds, Sasha, until the body feels it, and that's too late, precious girl. That's our problem in the West. We only know about the body, but thoughts are down there, 1,000 thoughts a second, all rushing along, and we pay no attention until we stub the toe. We pay no attention until you feel it in your body. It's too late. I'm talking about something more subtle than feeling. I'm talking about conceptual thoughts raging in our head at 1,000 thoughts a second. That's what we have to get in touch with, beneath the feeling, beneath the body, and that takes practice.
Okay.
You with me?
Yes.
Good, yeah. Sweet. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Time to go home. No, but it's a big surprise because, I mean, what Sasha's saying is so common in the West. We're totally give power to feelings. We totally only know what is in our mind when we feel it in our physical body. And that's a bit like you drive, Sasha, it's a bit like you're going 100 miles an hour on the freeway and you go, oh, my wheels are falling off. What will I do? Well, I'm sorry, it's too late, Sasha, because all the time the wheels have been wobbling and because you've never paid attention day after month after year until suddenly it comes to the surface, which is your body feeling it. You have to get to see the thoughts beneath the feelings, Sasha, and that's the big job. When we can do that, we're really being our own therapists. And it's the opposite of denial. It's dealing with what's in the mind. Then this is cognitive behavioral therapy. Then your physical feelings will change because your thought processes are changing. It's really more subtle. It's very fascinating. So if you pay attention to the wobbles, you're paying attention to what's happening underneath your feelings, you'll never get to the point where you're going to have a mental breakdown. You'll never get to the point where the feelings in your body will be so strong you can't do anything. Of course they're so strong because you haven't been dealing with the thoughts beneath them, because the mind and the body are intimately connected, sweetheart. You with me, Sasha? So keep practicing, babe. So that's enough for today. Changchup Semcho Grupoche Make Panam Keguchi Kepanyampa Mepayang Gong Ne Gondu Pabashon. And that's about it until next time. I don't know. Yeah. Isn't it?
We've got a few things to do, Lamrim.
Huh?
We've got a few things to do.
What? Okay.
It's Valentine's, and we said chocolate would be involved tonight.
Okay.
And guess what? All over the world, people are presenting chocolate.
Well, these people here can't eat our chocolate. What a pity. They can't enjoy chocolate. So we're going to have to eat chocolate, and you're not going to have any. Maybe you can close it down and be mean. Oh, it's a cake. Oh, for God's sake.
Don't quit. Get a little something from your...
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Okay, that's it. I'm ending the meeting right now.
I've got to get this up here. I can't do my finger. Wait a minute. I'll show that properly.
Okay, Ravina's.
Here's the speaker. Go on, show the cake.
Ooh, here it is. And it
There
says,
it is.
what does it say?
It says, we love Ravina.
Of course we do.
All right.
Okay. I want to share with you, darling, but I can't. I'm sorry.